Okay. Hi, I'm Heidi with Mentor Books, and I am here with Suzanne Geisemann. Did I say that right, or is it Giesemann?
It's Giesemann, like a flock of geese.
Okay, gotcha. Giesemann. She is the author of 3 books. 2 of them are Messages of Hope and Wolf's Message, and her latest, Still Right Here. And if you have recently lost somebody, curious about death, this interview video is going to be for you. She is, I guess, retired Navy commander would be the right way to say that. Okay, retired Navy commander. She has flown on Air Force One, been with the president, and has been a witness to the 9/11 tragedy that we had. So I guess maybe we want to start it off there is in your books, you talk about running from the tragedies or loss or 9/11 or not wanting to deal with it. And I kind of feel like that's what most people want to do. They don't want to go to what hurts. So can you help a little bit with that? Explain why you did that and what brought you back to actually dealing with loss.
Sure. Thanks, Heidi. On 9/11, I was aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That was my Navy job. I was the right-hand man to the top military officer in the United States Armed Forces. And, you learn in the military to just be tough and to not give in to your feelings. But when 9/11 came, all of us experienced our humanity, our compassion for others, and our fear that this could have been me or this could have been my family members. And I didn't quite know how to handle with that on 9/11. I didn't have a spiritual or religious background at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing some spiritual seeking, but I turned to traditional religions, and it just didn't help me to deal with the feelings that came up. Yeah. I knew several people who were killed in the attacks on the Pentagon, which was my office building at the time. And so when it came time for me to retire, I had 20 years exactly, and I retired that day because of 9/11. I had known that life is too short not to live your dreams while you can. And so when I look back on it in retrospect, I do feel like I was running away from my feelings. It was time for me to retire from the Navy and move on to something else. But at the same time, I took off on a sailboat, and I didn't have to think about terrorism. I didn't have to think about the people who died, and I didn't.
Yeah.
But a few years later, my stepdaughter Suzanne, who was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, was struck by lightning, a bolt out of the blue. The storm was 10 miles away, and she was killed. And she was 6 months pregnant at the time. So it was a double tragedy for our family. And you can't run away from that. Suddenly we had to face the grief. And it was drop you to your knees grief for me and for my destroyer captain husband, who was always my rock. Suddenly we're both dealing with this and asking those questions that I gave up on on September 11th. And so I took my husband to see a medium because I somehow...
Of all things. Yeah. What prompted that, of all things?
Well, I had been interested in the afterlife and discussions of the afterlife for my whole life.
Okay.
But I never knew if it was real or not, that this thing called the spirit actually was part of us. But when I saw my Susan's body in her casket, I knew in that moment there has to be something that enlivens the body, because the difference was so drastic. And then again, when I saw my father a couple years later, I watched him take his last breath, and it was just an instantaneous change. It was more than just he's not breathing. There was part of him that was breathing him. And so I'd heard of these people called mediums who could allegedly talk to people who had died. And so we were so desperate to know that Susan wasn't really gone forever, that we hadn't lost her. Our English language is so depressing when you think about it, and limiting too, because I know better now. And it started with what that medium told us.
Yes.
She gave us evidence that Susan was right there in the room with us.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think I really think and feel that people want to believe that we're just not here and lights out when we're gone, that there's more to life, there's a purpose and there's a reason, but yet we come in so blind from that purpose and reason, it seems. So why would that be that some people can connect with spirits and others can't? And are there ways for us to?
Oh, goodness, yes. Well, let me just quickly tell you, though, that because I started meditating the week that Susan died, and that was in 2006,
yes,
I created space in my awareness to shut out all the human story and the chatter that all of us have going on in our brain, and became aware of a more subtle voice and a more subtle dimension, and opened up to this greater reality in a way I never expected. And so today I am an evidential medium, just like that woman that brought Susan back to us. And I've learned so much through the meditation, through my personal contact with the greater reality and those who inhabit it, that I've come to a great understanding that the fact that we don't sense the spirit world is part of the perfection. We need to learn as we go that this life is a role that we're playing as humans, but we're both human and soul. Mm-hmm. And there's a real common path. If you go to any of my events, workshops, classes, you'll see that most of the people who follow my work are over 40. And that's because I think it's part of the plan that we don't remember we're souls having a human experience. We have that whole family career experience so that our souls grow through our loving choices. And then usually something happens. For some, it's just the empty nest syndrome and people start looking for something more. For others like me and so many people that I know, it's a personal tragedy, a death in the family. It starts us now really going down a spiritual path. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are many ways to open ourselves to this awareness, but the number one way is creating presence. We be that through meditation, through mindfulness practices, that sort of thing.
Yes. And so the grief process is sometimes very difficult. Like you said, it had brought you to your knees. What can you tell others about how they can maybe take a break from the heartache?
Oh, well, for me, the absolute key, and it's for others as well, is that realization that all of this drama on this earthly plane is but one aspect, one part of our wholeness. Mm-hmm. We are souls, and that soul part of you is always present. We just have to learn to tune into it. And I teach a method of shifting our awareness and integrating human awareness with soul awareness to find the peace that is already within you. It's not held within the story, it's held within your soul awareness. So you don't have to go looking for it somewhere. You find it in meditation. You find it when you learn to rise above the drama. It can be as simple as a visualization of, I can't handle this grief anymore. If I really am a soul, I'm going to go to that higher level, and in your mind's eye, perhaps step into a hot air balloon and rise above the grief. Be able to observe your story from for example, from the perspective of your spirit guides or your angels. They know it's temporary. They know you're here for a purpose. They know that we'll grow stronger as a result of our grief.
I like
this kind of separating ourselves from the story is the critical step.
I like that a lot. So one of the things you said in your book, still right here, is that heaven is here. Can you explain that?
Do that in 2 minutes. Yeah. I have a friend, Brenda Baker, a very dear friend, who just passed about 2.5 months ago. Mm-hmm. And within hours of her passing, she was yakking in my ear with absolute evidence, telling me stories about herself that I had never heard before, but her dearest friend was able to validate. So I knew this was Brenda, but she snuck that evidence in just so I couldn't deny it. And the one thing that Brenda said over and over in the immediate days after her passing is, I'm right here. There is no there. There is only here.
Ah,
So when we leave our bodies, we don't go anywhere. We just become aware, more aware of who we've always been. These beautiful lights, these beautiful souls in a human body. But without the dense vibration of the human body holding us back from this awareness, our physical senses, we focus so much on them that we block out this heaven that's right here. And heaven is a state of awareness that I am the light I seek.
that's beautiful.
Come to that awareness, any tragedy can befall you and you can find peace. I'll tell you right now, Heidi, I told you this before we started. I just left my mother's bedside in hospice. I may have spoken to her for the last time. She's on her very last breaths. And hopefully you can't tell that in me. You can't feel it in my energy because I'm not in grief, because I know where she's going. She's going to have sudden awareness. She's already seeing loved ones and standing around her bed, and my mother is not a believer. But you don't have to believe. This is reality. And when you shed these physical senses, that becomes your new reality, the spirit world. So you learn to set the grief aside simply because you can have these personal experiences of the greater reality.
I know I have some clients and patients of mine that say to me, if I don't grieve, if I don't suffer, I'm scared that I'm going to forget them. Or they say, I feel guilty if I don't. What can you say about that?
Yes, I heard one grieving mother tell me that she thought that the amount that she grieved was equivalent to the amount that she loved her son who passed.
Oh, goodness.
Boy, is that going to hold us back, that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
There is no need to suffer when we realize it's our thoughts. It is completely our thoughts that cause our suffering. It's not the death at all. It's our thoughts around that. Each time that I felt grief in the past week welling up, oh my gosh, I'm not going to see my mother again in this physical world, you can easily give into that. But I've already trained myself to stop and say, that's love. I've relabeled that grief feeling of love. And it's because of our loved one's presence that we have that, what we feel as pain. The pain comes from focusing on thoughts such as I'll never see them again physically. But I know that my mother will be more present with me once she passes from this body than now. I travel 6 months of the year and I call her on the phone once a day. Now all I have to do is think about her, and as a medium, I know that will draw her near me. And it's a beautiful, comforting thing.
Yes. So people can choose love instead of grief?
It is a choice. And it does take training and understanding of how our thoughts cause us to suffer. It doesn't mean we don't have to grieve. I will grieve my mother, but not too badly. I have a lot of clients who've been suffering for years over the death of their mother.
Yes.
And does that mean that because I may not grieve very hard that I didn't love my mother? I could not possibly love her more.
Yes.
But grief is not an indicator of how much we love.
Yes. As you know, I do EMDR therapy.
Yes.
Something really unusual happened during a session. I was doing the reprocessing, which is the eye movements phase 4. And she suddenly said, my mom is here, and telling me to go and find the cookie cutters that we used to make cookies with, which she hadn't seen in over 30 years. She went, and sure enough, they were exactly where her mom said they would be. And she was just, that was the healing for her, was that she knew her mom was there. And so that, you know, I'm definitely a true believer, but I know there are people that have beliefs and religions that keep them from this. So what is that fear, and why do they grasp, and how can they at least take some of this understanding that we do go on and that we will be together again? How can we cross that bridge?
Well, it's recognizing that religions serve a wonderful purpose. They provide a sense of community. They give us something to think about. But please notice that most religions teach us what to believe, and fear keeps us bound to that belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas spirituality is your own personal journey, and your beliefs come from your personal experience, testing everything in the heart and saying, is this true? Is this my truth?
Mm.
And so if we examine many religions, the fear comes from what people have told us. And if once you start sitting in the silence in meditation or contemplation regularly, you come to know that this is a universe based on love. Absolutely. And our source, our spirit, God, is that source of love. And there's just no fear once you tap into that.
So it's a feeling that you can tap into.
Absolutely. And it takes on thoughts. The concepts are put into our head from higher consciousness that allows us to understand even more who we are as a projection, as an aspect of that love that birthed us.
Yes. So I want to ask you this. There are people that come here that work really hard for money and for things, and then at the end, you can't really take those things with you. What can we take with us?
Oh my gosh. What we take with us is our energetic signature. All mediums are psychic. That means I can read anybody's energetic field and within minutes know exactly what kind of person they are, what the majority of their thoughts have been throughout their life, whether they're based on love or fear or judgment, because that's held in your energetic field. And that's what you take with you, your vibration, your personal ringtone. My friend Brenda had a major awakening before she died, about 3 years before she died. She used to be filled with self-loathing, unworthiness. She was very overweight. She didn't like to look in the mirror until she actually attended one of my presentations and just suddenly understood we're here to be the presence of love. And she became all about sharing that message. She was like a love bug. And so when she crossed the other side, she had already cleared out all the gunk, cleared out all of the self-loathing. She was the epitome, the ambassador of love in a human body. So that's what she took with her. And as a result of that, that was instantaneous, what we would call heaven. There was no suffering. She did not self-judge herself during the life review because she understood it even before she passed. Those who don't get why we're here, which is to be the presence of love, to love others unconditionally. Those who don't understand that may have to continue learning and growing as a soul once they cross the other side. I bring through spirits all the time at various levels of soul's growth. So if you were crabby and judgmental and couldn't say I love you when you cross, you don't suddenly become angelic. That's exactly how you would show yourself to a medium, which is really eye-opening.
Very much so. Very much so. Now tell me about I had this question that just resonated with me, and then it just left me, but it's about the fear that we have while we're here of things that happen, of natural disasters and the devil and the president, some people would say. And so how can we understand that?
Again, fear comes from the human's ignorance of who we are and what life is about. If you understand that God is a source of love, and I don't even like using the word God, because to some that brings up a judgmental human-like being, when to me it is an energetic vibration of pure infinite intelligence and awareness. When you understand that that love permeates everything, there is no fear. I realize that I'm very much a pragmatist. I realize that we are playing dual roles here. One is the role of the human, and the other is our true essence, the soul. And so once you realize that, I can understand why people have fear. That comes from not realizing who they are. And so people grasp power and they make decisions that aren't in everyone's interest. Others talk of a devil because they were taught that. human consciousness holds fear and creates evil situations with their consciousness. But as each one of us comes to know that it's our thoughts that create our reality, then we learn to turn up the light within ourselves and radiate that outwards. And that's how one by one we change our world. But it starts by finding the peace within us. I can read the headlines and not be at all rattled because I see what's playing out here. And I know that at a different level, everything really is in perfect order. Natural disasters are part of the rule set of this reality. It's, you know, the earth adjusts itself and we have earthquakes. We have air currents and they sometimes cause hurricanes. And people pass from this earthly realm as a result of it, but they don't die. This changes everything to know that their life continues and they're in a beautiful place now filled with love where earthquakes aren't a disaster, you know, it's just a whole shift in perspective. But people can hear me talk all day long. You need to have your own experience of this greater reality to really understand you are here for a purpose, every one of us, and death is not the end.
Wow, yeah. So what can you tell us about attachments to each other, to other humans? And some people have unhealthy attachments and they stay in those abusive relationships. What can you say about some of the attachment that humans have to humans?
I would not say do not become attached to someone, because we are here to love each other. And if you are afraid to love someone because you're going to lose them, then you're missing out on life's greatest joy, even though it often leads to our greatest grief. That is life in human form, and it is how we grow. However, when those attachments cause lingering grief because we're focused on our thoughts, then it gets back to what we talked about earlier. So it's understanding that when we learn to flow with life, we find greater peace. I want to share a really funny analogy that I learned by a firsthand example. I was feeling rather unsettled from a bunch of things that had happened in my life. And I said to my husband, let's go for a mountain bike ride. That'll be fun. And so we got out on this real easy trail, and I was just enjoying the exercise. The fresh air was clearing my energy field. And then all of a sudden we hit all these roots and all these rocks, and I was getting jarred, and I found myself getting really irritable and cranky. And I said, this is terrible. I'm supposed to be having peace out here on this trail. And I heard this booming voice in my head, my guides, I don't know who it was. And they said, it's a mountain bike trail, for God's sake. And I just suddenly understood, and I had to laugh at myself. We get so upset and we say that person shouldn't have died, and I should have peace in my life, and this shouldn't have happened, and the president should be this or that. Hey, it's life, and life is like that. And the best way to have a good ride on a mountain bike is to just flow. And then you ride right over the bumps. It's when we tense up and stop breathing that then we shake like this. And it's the perfect analogy for what we go through here in Earth School.
That is definitely, I love that story. Very great. So speaking of that journey that you had on the bike, we also have a life journey, and we have time. Some have more than others. But what can you say about our linear time here on Earth? How does that relate to heaven and the concept of time? How can you explain that?
Okay, as best I understand it, and my guides, Sanaya, who you can find out about on my website, they're wonderful. They give a lot of wisdom, have explained it to me that in the spirit world, there is no time. You have a thought and you're instantly in the place you're thinking about. So there's no distance either. You suddenly have an awareness of all happening at once, and wherever you place your focus becomes your experience. But here, the rule set of life in human form requires things to unfold A, B, C linearly. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is so that we learn from cause and effect. The challenge is that the effect sometimes takes so long to reveal itself that we don't understand the original cause. And we think that things are not just, well, this person got away with that. Where's their effect? You know, where's their justice? When in fact, we may not see that their justice comes on the other side for not being loving. That's just one example, but cause and effect is our greatest teacher. You learn right away, if I touch this hot stove, I'm going to burn myself. That was a linear event.
Yes.
Some are faster than others. So time is an artifice, but it is a tool here in Earth Score for our soul's growth.
Yes, yes, very good. Thank you. There also, I want to ask you is we have these human bodies that we live in that have cells, and we have to deal with health issues. And I know from my work that stress is just really hard on the body. What can you help us with about physical health and stress and reducing it, or taking care of ourselves?
Again, the physical body is a reflection of the energetic body, your spirit, emotional, mental bodies that are all layered and intertwined and tangled. And you're absolutely correct that most, I'm checking in with my guides, they would say, oh, no, well, I'm not going there. But most physical challenges are a result of some kind of mental or emotional stressor. Okay. So again, it gets back to examining our thoughts, being willing to look at what is causing us stress and finding a different way of viewing things from that higher perspective.
Yes, yes. So there was this new study done it's called ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it's 10 questions that Kaiser and the Center for Disease Control asked close to 20,000 people over 17 years. And what they came up with was that adverse childhood experiences create disease and all kinds of stuff in adults later on in life. But it seems to be that we don't have any real big choices over our childhood. We have people that are in charge of us and take care of us, yet we do have a lot of, I guess I would say, learning experiences through our childhood. What can we do to grow and help us with our health as we get older and into the age where our organs and the life stressors start to take a toll on us?
It gets back to understanding, Heidi, that we are energetic beings first and foremost, and studying the energetic flow. I have a free meditation on my website called the 10-minute transformation. And it's a 10-minute exercise to clear the main energetic centers. I know this sounds woo-woo, which is a term for somebody who's really out there, but just remember my background, okay? The Navy commander has had absolute proof that just a few minutes of focusing on these energetic centers with the intention of clearing them is better than any pill we could take to re-energize ourselves, to clear our brain. All kinds of energetic modalities can help us to clear out a lifetime of gunking up our system with our own thoughts or others' thoughts, or even toxic things in the environment. We can heal ourselves, but I'm not saying to do it all alone. This is why we're given healers to help us, energetic healers, and it's why we have doctors as well. I believe that we are human, so we should take advantage of the human gifts given to us in whatever form they come.
Great, great. So what is your website? Tell us the website where people can go to get some of the stuff.
Okay, well, SuzanneGiesemann.com will get you there, but also loveatthecenter.com will take you to the same place. I also, I want to correct you, Heidi. You may not know, I actually have 12 books, not 3.
Wow.
So those books are on the website. So free meditations, tons of videos that hopefully will inspire people, filled with evidence from my readings and messages of hope from the other side. Thousands of messages from my guide Sanaya that have universally spoken to people over the years, and a weekly live radio show every Thursday with Unity Online Radio.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I have another question for you.
Great.
Because I was asked this question. And the question is, do we have other lives? And one person in particularly asked me, and they really feel like they have trauma from another life that they need healed. Is that possible?
Yes, it is. But I'm coming to understand based on what my guides tell me, and I just heard someone else say this on a video last night, that we're part of a soul that is having multiple incarnations, and they're actually happening at the same time. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that when I try to unfold it linearly in Earth time. And yet I was shown a past life of mine and was able to go online and find the historical data that I was given by my guide telling me about this lifetime. So being one who really needs the evidence, that's data that I could not possibly know or make up.
Yes.
What has convinced me this is real? But don't take my word for it. There are researchers such as Dr. Ian Stevenson, who has documented hundreds, if not thousands, of cases of children who have given evidence of other lives.
Wow, very, very, very interesting.
And it is.
Do we come in clean, or do we have trauma that we can come in with, maybe that we're trying to heal? What happens with
I have brought through some information from past lives in just a few of my readings that are validated by the person. Yes, that's been a major issue in my life, and it does seem like it's an issue that was carried over from a lifetime. But really, the most important part is don't worry about those past lives. Work on your issues here and now. That's why you're here. And know that you can heal that. And it starts with finding the love that's within ourselves, listening to our thoughts, and making sure they're always in alignment with our true self, which is a soul.
That makes a lot of sense, because I was about to say, gosh, I have so much in this life to deal with, and struggle and worry and all of the stuff that comes along with living life, and trying to change that into better thoughts and better direction. So what about feelings and the sadness and the fear and the shame? What about shame? That's a big one for people.
You really have to allow yourself to feel it, and then examine again the thoughts behind it. And I was wearing a t-shirt all day today, one that I designed, and it says practicing presence. When we focus on the past all the time, we carry with us this victim mentality. But who are you right here, right now? You may have been molded by those experiences in the past. You may be carrying shame, but the moment you realize that's my story, I am a beautiful light beyond the story, the two levels, it changes everything instantly. And you can say, I'm no longer buying into that story. That was then. What is happening right now? What am I aware of right now? Right now, I'm looking at a beautiful view. Right now, I have so much to be grateful for. Practicing presence brings peace.
Yes, yes. So do we have a higher self? And if we do, is there a way to access our higher self?
You are your higher self, only now you're playing a role. You cannot not have a higher self. This is the soul I was talking about, and all selves are connected. There is ultimately one mind, and you can access that simply by setting the intention. I'm going to sit in the silence, and I'm going to ask the question, who am I? And I'm going to sit here, and every time a thought comes to my mind that's not related to that answer or is just chatter, I'm going to acknowledge it, let it slip past, and sit here some more. I have some meditations to help you do that. And you simply access it with intention, saying, okay, I'm willing to believe I have a higher self, or I have guides. You all do. I'm willing to believe this, so I'm going to ask you a question. What is the answer to this question that's been bothering me? Really, it's like the genie in the bottle. We all have it, but we don't think to ask.
I love it. The genie in the bottle. That's great.
It is. And I first learned this in my 30s when I said, okay, I've been succumbing to emotional overeating for about a dozen years, and this is not making me happy. Where is this coming from? I'm not getting any answers here. So if there's somebody listening, why do I turn to food for comfort? And it was only after I asked that question deliberately of a higher power, even though I didn't believe it was there, I got this download of insights that changed everything for me, and thus started a habit of remembering And instead of saying, what do I do? What do I do?
Mhm.
You shift your focus to this unseen helper. That may be your own higher self, maybe God itself. Does it matter? Just ask, what is the answer I need right now? And you just watch, your life will start flowing.
Wow, definitely great thing to follow. I'm going to try that myself.
Oh, please.
I want to talk a little bit about your book. I really enjoyed my favorite is still Wolf's Message.
Oh, great.
I love this story here because of the travel, and you're a beautiful writer, by the way.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, these kids, it's 4 couples that you guys all went on a journey together, and the kids set it up, and it's everybody that had lost a child. And I know there's so many people out there that think how devastating that is to begin with. But tell us about this journey and how you knew that these children were around and on the trip with you. And are they still around?
Oh, yes. The journey, as you said, Heidi, they set us up. And how did I know? Because they were right at the party where these 4 couples, including my husband and I, were enjoying a dinner. And I'm saying, well, your son is standing right there, and he's showing me that you saw a hot air balloon this morning, and your son's right there, and he's talking about the corn on the cob you're going to be serving. And actually 3 of the couples were at the party. The 4th was invited later. But we knew they were there because I get evidence from them. And when we went on this boat charter together, I've never experienced more love in a vacation with some relative strangers for a whole week of closeness, brought together by our kids and our love for our kids and their love for us. They were with us on the boat, giving me evidence and beautiful signs as we went along. And so the book is a celebration of how we can heal when we realize, as the title says, those who pass are not gone, they're not lost, they're still right here.
Yes, and I recommend this book to people that have lost loved ones, not just kids.
Yes.
It's very healing in the words. If we could just feel that and understand and see the signs from our loved ones. So,
yes, and you asked me, are they still with us after the trip? Absolutely. I got to visit Lynn and Jeff, one of the couples in the book, just a couple weeks ago in Colorado. And there was their son, Dylan, in the living room, in spirit. And in fact, I said, your son is pointing to this stand-up fan here, and he's showing me it's spitting out water as if I'm supposed to talk about a humidifier. And his parents laughed, and they said, yesterday we were at Home Depot looking at this crazy humidifier and asking if we should buy it or not. That's what I'm talking about, evidence. Their son knows about it because he's part of their lives, and he went to Home Depot with them.
Wow. That's great. That's great. So tell me what life is like for you as a medium, having talk to all the spirits and do these readings, and you're kind of in heaven and on earth, I would say.
In this world, but not of it, right? It's the most amazing life. It's very demanding because I love showing people that this is real. I tried to do 1 reading a day, and I did one today, and it was life-changing for this woman. I want to tell people I have at least a 3-year waiting list because I only do 1 a day. And but in the meantime, I'm trying to find balance so that I have time with my husband and my 2 puppies, so that I recharge my batteries. Yet I'm also working on another book, and I have to plan for my radio show every week. But it's a life of service, and I knew that in the Navy, 20 years of serving our nation. I tell people now my calling is to serve humanity in any way that I can. And I want everybody who's listening to know you don't have to write books and have a radio show or anything. All you need to do is open your heart and show caring and loving to other people, and you are serving and fulfilling your purpose.
Yes, wonderful. Well, is there anything else you would like to tell our audience? I do have one last question, and I have a feeling I know the answer is love, but there's people that have asked about jealousy and about how some people have more and some people have less, how some people are homeless with no food, yet there should be plenty of food for everybody on the planet. But the question is about the jealousy that people see with others when they see somebody have something wonderful.
That's a beautiful question. And again, it comes back to understanding who we are. And when we are stuck in our story, that's ego. And the ego lives on fear. It feeds on it. It wants you to be afraid. And jealousy is a reflection of the fear. I won't have enough. People won't love me enough. But when you realize you are the soul and you're this beautiful light, that's all we need. And so, yes, we can have money and comfort, and that's beautiful. But then suddenly your life doesn't become about that. We can appreciate the nicer things, and we start to want to give that and share that with others. And we celebrate when others also enjoy successes, comfort, love.
Yes, healing.
Jealousy. It's
Healing
just
also. When you see people heal, it's a gift.
yes.
I know I'm in the healing work, and it's a gift.
It is
most energized and the best when I'm working with people, for sure. So,
yes.
well, I really want to thank you for this interview. I know that you have a busy day and evening, and I don't know. I guess this is what I want to ask you, because you're losing your mom, and many people are going to say, I don't know what to say to people.
I'm so glad
you to say something to you about you losing your mom, and I just got lost for words.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, number one, we need to change the vocabulary because I'm not losing her. She's
Okay.
Her physical presence may be gone from my life, but I know I will feel her. And every time I think of her, the love will well in my heart and we'll be connected. So we have to know that. But that loss of the physical presence is huge, and it is quite final seeming to us. So the one thing, I just did a channeling session of my guides for 170 people in my community, and I was sharing with them that I had come from a hospice house to do that. And I looked at them and I said, I know you are sorry for me. I know you understand what I'm going through because we've all been there. But I'm going to ask you a favor. Please come up to me and do not say, I'm sorry, because I know it. Yes. What I want is you to find a creative way to celebrate the fact that I have my mother's love. And so people would come up and say things like, I surround you with strength and love as you go through this time. Or I'm so glad you've had this time with your mother. Or I know that your mother will be fine. That, not everybody knows that. But you see how we can get outside the box of immediately saying, I'm sorry. The last thing I wanted was to have 100 some people walk up to me and drag the energy down when in fact I know my mother is literally going to a more freeing environment.
Yes. Do you think we are getting to a better place as humans? Because I see that we're starting to have a celebration of life instead of funerals.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. My guides jokingly say that we've moved from the dark ages to the dim ages. Because we still have a long way to go. All you have to do is read the headlines to know that. But on an individual basis, as we find our spiritual group, we can see that people are learning and we're shedding the fears, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yes. So no more I'm sorry's when somebody dies.
Well, we can be sorry, and it's quite all right, especially, in the immediacy of somebody a child passes. Oh, we're so sorry. So I'm not saying don't say it, but there are other ways to look at death.
Okay, great. And other things to say besides just that, I suppose.
Indeed. Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. I thank you with love and hugs, and all my heart goes out to you as your mom transitions. How's that?
That is so perfect, Heidi. You're a quick learner.
Well, good. I guess that's it, unless there's anything else you'd like to tell people about death and life. And
we could talk for hours. I could fill you in with stories from the other side until we run out of food.
Well, why don't you give us one really good story to end?
Well, just today I did a reading and I brought through a young man who took his own life, and his grandfather showed up with evidence of his lifestyle and what he looked like, and to say, I was a very faithful man when I was here, and I would have thought he was burning in hell, but I'm here to tell you your boy is fine. And then that young man said, they're saying a novena for me. Now, I'm not Catholic. I didn't even know what that meant. And the woman has told me that they put a novena card in the casket with them, and I'm saying a novena every day. That's just one story of
Wow.
thousands,
Wow.
thousands to
Yeah.
let people know this is real and
Yes.
we have nothing to fear.
Yes. And what about for suicides you had just said? Because I know there's some teenagers in my town that have committed suicide and their parents are really suffering.
I would suggest they read the beautiful interview at the end of Still Right Here with Leanne Hull, the mother of Andy, who completed suicide, is what they prefer to say, because they don't see it as a crime, which the word committed tends to make us think it is.
Yeah.
It's a choice that does cut short our opportunities to continue growing here on earth. But I would say, please read that interview. She's one strong woman with some great